All right, so now as you work more and more with strings in Python, getting the output that you want gets harder and harder. So there's a set of built-in codes that we call methods to use to manipulate strings. So if you go to the site for W3 schools, it has all the major string methods that you'll need. To start, I'll just take you through a few of them. So first one, capitalize, is pretty simple. There's no parameters or arguments, which means nothing goes in the parentheses. You would just call a string variable and then put dot capitalize. So the example here is Python is fun. When I run this, it changes everything. So only the first letter of the sentence is capitalized. So our variable is text, so we put text dot capitalize. That one's a pretty straightforward one. Next big one is center. So this centers a word, text, in the space of 20 characters. So it's helpful for center aligning and putting things in. So there are actually two arguments or two parameters in string.center. So unlike capitalize, where you put nothing between the parentheses, you would put first the length, like how wide this field width of centering is, and then a character to fill the default space. So if you look at this, this says required. So you need to put at least one number in here. And then character is optional. What you're going to fill on each side. You don't have to put in a second argument. So for example, so if we go to the banana and we run this right now, we get banana centered between 20 field widths. But let's say I want to put in another character. I want to put in a star now. That's an 8. Let's put in a star. Now we should see banana centered between 20 stars, filling in all the blank space. We could do this with another word too. So if we had A is equal to, if I put A in here, it'll look nasty, but oh no, never mind. It has to be only one character long. So I can only put in, you can put in H and it'll fill everything in banana with H. Banana, you can't really see it because it's disgusting, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so moving on. Count can be helpful. This one would just count how many times you put the string in here. That one's pretty straightforward. And code ends with. Okay, the next important one is going to be index. So the way that string variables work is each letter is a separate character stored together in a bigger variable called the string. So in order to keep track of what string is what, Python uses what we call indexes. So when we're looking at the text here, this capital H is at index 0. This E is at index 2. Everything always starts with 0. Or this E is at index 1. So everything starts at 0 and then it's 1, 2, 3, and so on. But when 0, you can't really, that's disgusting to read, but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we're looking at welcome, it's going to look at where welcome starts. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This blank space is 6, and then the W for welcome is 7. So I could also find, so if I want to find welcome, right, we run that and get 7. But if I want to find world, I can either type world and it'll search for the whole thing and get me where it starts. But let's say I don't know that this word is named world. I just want to find the second W. So if I try to put W now, and I'm looking for this W instead of welcome, I'm still going to get 7. So what I need to do is add in a start point. So I'm going to find the first W and store it as X. And then I'm going to I'm going to go down here and get Y is going to equal text.index W starting at X. And then I can print Y. Name text is not defined because I got to put this as a txt. Okay, this still doesn't work. So I got to put this actually as X plus 1 because it's going to start looking at 7 and 7 already has it. So now I go all the way up to 21. So using these indexes, I can pull everything like in between here. So let's say I want to print, I can print txt. I want what's in between the W's. So I can do this bracket square and put in X, comma, Y. Those are my 2 indexes. So when I run this, we can see what pops up when we ask for it. We want everything in between the 2 W's. And again, I keep using text instead of txt. So this gets welcome to my. All right, so if we look here, this space is included. So the way that this index works is it includes the first number, so it includes 7, and it puts everything up to 21. So if I put Y plus 1, it's going to get the second W. So that's how indexes work and how the index method works in string. So using these brackets, I can pull different indexes that I find using .index. Okay, so the next thing is decimal, and is digit also kind of works similar. So, or actually, no, I don't want to use is decimal. Finds if something's decimal, but the one you'll use more is digit, just to see if something is a digit. Here, wait, let me clear my drawing actually. So this returns a simple Boolean variable, true, false, just to find out if something in a string is a digit. So that's how you would locate numbers. So you don't put any arguments in here. You just take a string and do dot is digit. You can use this as a Boolean variable for other things too. You know, instead of storing it as X and printing it, I can just print whether or not this is true or false, and it'll automatically convert. That's true. If I put an F though in there, this whole thing isn't going to be, this whole thing's going to be false now. So that's how that one works. Is lower checks if it work. These all these ises work the same way. It's all true if something happens. So you can explore that more yourself. Join is going to be the next helpful one. So we haven't worked, you might not have worked with tuples or lists yet, but basically that's going to be a collection of strings. So what you can do is take something, you take any character, any string, and do dot join. And then in the argument, you would put a list or a tuple. And then it'll automatically fill in between all these with something. So you can make this very nice by putting in a little comma to separate John, Peter, and Vicky. And it knows not to add another comma in here. So say this tuple just turned into just John. It knows not to put any commas there because there's nothing else to fill it with. Oh, except it does because it's reading this as separate characters now. But if this was actually, if this was a list, it would know. So if I change this, you use brackets for lists and parentheses for tuples. But then it knows, don't add in any unnecessary commas. All right, let's look at some more methods. Ljust, if you're not using F strings, you can just use Ljust or just center just to put things in a certain justification. Are just or fine. Turns the last position. Okay, this is more stuff with lists, but what this does is you can either put no arguments in here or none, but it's going to turn a string into a list. So when you put nothing in here, the default is a space. So welcome to the jungle gets put into a list of all the words that are in this string. Let's say I want to break up every T. You know, this changes the list now. Welcome the jungle, right? It's going to just eliminate the T's and break everything else up into it. So split is very helpful when you're working with collections and lists. Strip is going to also be pretty helpful. So it deletes extra space and any characters that you put in it. So when we're trying ourselves, we're stripping all the extra things in here. So let's play around a bit more. I'd say I want to remove punctuation from something. There's too many periods. Right, good. World. All right, I don't want all these periods in here. So I can print text.strip. Instead of getting rid of empty space, I can want it to get rid of anything that's a period. So let's print text first, and then we'll print it without. And this has to just be txt. If we look at our result now. Oh, I forgot this doesn't actually work on stuff in between. It'll only look on the ends. So it'll only look at the start and end of each thing. So this would be a better representation of how to do it. I want to get rid of any punctuation that's at the beginning or the end of a string. I would strip that punctuation. So strip that period. This would also work if you have like a line break. You want to get rid of any line breaks. We can strip line break. So there we go. This time, once you strip it, it doesn't do a line break. So that one's helpful. I think that might be it. Let me just see if there's swap case is more of another case type thing. This one is pretty helpful. So when we're working with cases, when you're comparing stuff, okay, so we're going to have S1, string 1 is going to be hello world. S2 is going to equal. Right. So when Python looks at this, we want to see if S1 is equal to S2. So is equal to for Boolean, double equal sign. This is going to say false because Python's going to recognize these as different things. But if I want to compare something regardless of case, I can just do dot upper on both. So everything, no matter what, is in uppercase. This also works for lowercase. So you can do dot lower and dot lower. And we get true. So I think that's all the major ones that I went through. You're definitely going to want to play around on this site, though. Check out more of the methods you can use the triad editors to get them to work yourself. So good luck.